Welcome back. So, first part we talked about done and done's learner preferences. This part we're going to talk about multiple intelligences and how that can impact differentiation. And so we go back to Howard Gardner, came up with the multiple intelligence theory, said there were seven of them. As researchers kept going on, they added an eighth. So Gardner's original seven was interpersonal, how you deal with others; intrapersonal, how you reflect upon yourself; logical, mathematical, number sense; spatial, how relationships fit together and how objects can be on top of one another; bodily, kinesthetic, the use of the body; linguistic, use of language; musical, use of music. They added the eighth intelligence, the naturalist, and many researchers now say there's probably others. For instance, the culinary skill or intelligence, the existentialist uh, intelligence. You could go a little bit further, and it's kind of interesting to look at some of these other ideas that they have, if I can find the other ones. Yeah, here's culinary intelligence, mechanical intelligence, craft intelligences, um, existential intelligence, emotional intelligence, uh, and how that impacts feelings. By the way, I'm drawing this from a book from the Kagan people. Got this off Amazon for $1. Uh, Old copyright on it, 1998. I've had it for about 10 years, so it was even old then, but good foundation to work from. And in the links in that for you to look at, I have put down the Project Zero uh, project from Harvard, which is Gardner's baby about multiple intelligences. A couple of things to think about though. Those other intelligences, number one, it's debatable. Who knows? Existential, it could be a combination of intra and interpersonal. Culinary could be a combination of naturalist and logical mathematical. Okay, there's different ways of looking at it. And who knows how many intelligences there are? I mean, you could make an argument that there's different types of bodily kinesthetic intelligences, and that perhaps that should be broken down even more. Here's where multiple intelligence theory comes in. Number one, you must believe that intelligence is not fixed, that you can have a growth mindset and enhance your intellectual abilities. Number two, you can look at what other forms of intelligence there are as far as academic performance goes. And I'm going to recommend a book to you. Sir Ken Robinson's The Element. If you ever get a chance to read it, I would encourage you to, because it basically takes multiple intelligence theory into a practical realm, which is kind of my whole point of doing this. But again, like we talked about with learning preferences, there's something to be said for having kids take a multiple intelligence test. In that, one, it might confirm what some kids think they know they like. Number two, it might spur other kids to look at things they might like. So, those are the two things I would encourage you to think about. I used to give my kids multiple intelligence tests, and I've given some of them at K State a multiple intelligence test. And what they gained from it was, again, confirmation, or number two, wow, I didn't realize I liked that. And so we tried different things with them, with my kids in my classrooms, where you like toying with words, it says it's not your favorite thing. What if you wrote a poem instead of an essay for this? And with that, let's get into differentiation a bit. Number one way of it is setting up open-ended authentic assessment or product assessment, where you can uh, you can specifically, sorry, my phone rang. I lost my train of thought for a second. Problem solving and product assessment, where you can contract with kids. And I did this very successfully for a while. I had my kids every 9 weeks out at Colby when I first started teaching. They had to do a different project every 9 weeks. And the project was simply, show me what you know about social studies. And so I had some kids. One kid researched a recipe on what a diet was like for people during the age of exploration. And then, as a practical product of that, he brought in some salted beef. He took some filet strips, he browned them, and then he salted them and dehydrated them in a jerky maker. And he said, I can't believe how salty they were. Would you like to try some, Mr. B? And so I set an example for the class, bit down into it, took 3 bites, and I thought I was going to have a stroke. My face went into rictus. It was so salty. I was like, and the kids had a laugh, but it was real. It was authentic. By the way, he's now a chef. Had another young lady who wanted to research instead of contract with me, medieval foods. And so she baked a penny inside this fruit bread, which was common amongst many families in medieval villages in France and England, that if you had the slice of bread with the penny inside of it, you would have good luck for a year. And it was cool to see her do the research of it. She presented it neatly. She presented it succinct, tight, and she even broke down the nutritional information on it. By the way, she's a nutritionist now. Find ways that kids can use their interest, use their vocational interest, use what they want to pursue, and tie it into a contract. By the way, you don't make the contract, you're just ratifying them. Have kids submit it. You look through it. If it's not up to their ability, send it back. Say, no, you're better than this. Of course, you might know, if you have that relationship with kids I've been talking about, perhaps there's something they're going through at home, and you need to adjust that. It gives you a lot of flexibility. And it reminds me to tell you that you as the teacher not only set the culture of your classroom, but the virtual classroom as well. Kids will talk. We all know that. They'll say, well, you approved this for this kid. Why can't I do something like that? Well, in my classroom, one of the first rules was, I'm going to treat you all fairly, and to do so, that means I'll treat you all differently. I'm going to push you. I'm going to stretch you. And I'll never bring a kid's project down. If they want to do something big, I'm going to say, let's go for it, even if we have to break it down into different steps and have them attack each small step at a time. I'll eventually push them all the way through there. One of the links on your list comes from Roger Taylor's site, and has a list of products that you can have kids choose from. And some of those are just brilliant. Have kids use their interests, use their strengths of multiple intelligences to demonstrate what they've learned. Additionally, mastery teaching is part of differentiation. Enrichment for when kids get it, remediation if they need help with it. When I taught 7th grade world geography, First unit, using map skills. And yeah, I still had kids that didn't get latitude and longitude. Even on a summative assessment, they might not get it. So there'd be enrichment and remediation. And again, that culture in my classroom, and this was always the first unit that I had to lay down the law, I'd say, I'm going to treat you fairly by treating you differently, because to treat you the same way is not treating you fairly. But if I ever hear one of you dogging another student because they're having to do remediation or some other assignment, there will be hell to pay. Never really had to do that after the first time, because the story got passed down to further grades. And I was tough on kids that tried making fun of others. It's the culture of the classroom. It's how you set it up. Remediation, they sat with me one on one, and I mean, we would drill latitude and longitude. And by the time they were done, they mastered it. The enrichment piece that I had other kids do that mastered latitude and longitude, they had to come up with an algorithm to determine the antipodes of a place. The proverbial, if you drilled a hole through the center of the earth and came out on the other side, where would that be? And they had to come up with the algorithm for it. And eventually I'd have to give kids some help on it. But by the way, for you social studies folks out there, it's for the latitude, you just flip the north to south. And then for the longitude, you take 180 minus x, which is the original place, and then flip the denominator, or flip the east or west. That's the finding the antipode of a place. Okay? Mastery teaching. The summative assessment should not be the end of the unit. Couple other things. Just modifying the curriculum is a good way to differentiate in the instruction. And again, have different levels. Have different theses. Again, make it a lab class. So like with my kids, we did primary source investigations all the time. I differentiated based on difficulty. Hey, here's a tougher primary source. I want you to attack this thesis statement. I want you to use a smaller primary source. Or it might be something just in the type of source, a speech on YouTube compared to the written document. Those are different ways, and by modifying the delivery, I could provide differentiation for the kids. The last one that I'll share just real quick, I would get 9 different projects and put it on a tic-tac-toe board. And I'd tell the kid, you have 3 mini projects to do this unit. This corner, 1, 2, 3, were kind of lower level. The diagonal were medium level. And the bottom 3 were hard level. Kids had to make tic-tac-toe. And there were different intelligences I was tapping in each of those requirements. And if a kid, and they'd have to come up, show me their tic-tac-toe, explain what they were going to do on each, and I'd say, yeah, go for it. Go for it. Again, if a kid tried taking the easy way out, I'd say, why would you do that? Well, this one has write a poem on it, and I've never written a poem before, so I want to try it. Good. I like that. Or we might get creative in how the tic-tac-toe goes. Differentiation, don't make it so hard. Don't make it so painful. Have a rubric for it. It's the simplest way to attack this. And have, in this digital age, use the digital submissions and use digital creation. A lot of people think differentiation has to be this massive thing. No, you can do it in small chunks. Give kids options based upon their intelligences and let them go to town on it. That's the key to success. It's worked for me. I hope it works for you. And we'll see you for Module 4, some of the low-tech ideas.